Hello class, today we'll be talking about web services. Let me get my class note up. So I'm going to show you guys how to use the tool called SoapUI to do web service testing. Make it bigger a little bit. Alright, so by now everyone should have SoapUI installed on your machine, and I'm going to show you very quickly how to test some very simple web services. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a SOAP project. I'm going to show you how to read the WSDL documentation. Um, I'm going to show you how to create your request message for the web service. I'm going to show you how to create test cases in SoapUI. And lastly, I'm going to show you how to create a test suite, and so I guess that's not the last one. I'm going to show you how to add a checkpoint on a session into your script. So let's get started. For a lot of you that you're very new to this, what is a web service? As I said in class, a web service is a self-contained application that does one thing. And it does one thing very well, that other applications can call that web service to do that one thing. So for example, I could be a web service for the weather. So it doesn't matter what phone you're using, what application you're using, any application in the world or any software or any gadget that needs the weather can always call the weather web service to get the weather. So you notice that things that we use all the time, like the weather, currency converter, sign up by Facebook, these are very, very popular web services that a lot of you are used to by now. So let's pick up the tool. The tool we're going to be using for this program is called SoapUI. And the first thing you guys are going to do is you click on the file. So let me close everything. Let's get a new clean. Okay. So you click on File. Oops, sorry. And you select a new SOAP project. So to create a new SOAP project, you need a few things. You got to give it a name. So I'll call this, today is Saturday, so I'll call it Saturday Demo 2. And I need a WSDL. So what is a WSDL? A WSDL is a web service definition language that defines the rules that I gotta follow before I can use the web service. In a web service, you find things like, the type of inputs for you to provide to the web service. The WSDL, you'll find things like the endpoint. It will tell you the IP address where the web service lives. And lastly, you will find what the response should look like, meaning you will find out what the web service will send back to you when you call it. Another thing you'll find in the WSDL is the data type. So it tells you the data type of the inputs. And typically we have several data types that I spoke about in class. I'm going to quickly talk about data types. So a data type is essentially a type of data you're going to be using for the web service. And that could be an integer, which is basically numbers. So you have 0, 1, 2, 3s. Your data type could be a string. Actually, let's start with a character. Your data type could be a character, and a character is a single character. So it could be A, B, C, D. Those are characters. Your data type could be a string, which is a collection of characters. So a string could now be Ty, that's a string. Ali is a string. Jim, that's a string. We also have what we call a float or a double. And this is essentially an integer that accepts decimals. So 10.2, that's a float. 0.23, that's a float. 12.55, that's a float. 1.22222, that's a float as well. And I believe lastly we have a boolean. Now a boolean, it's a data type that is either a true or a false. So um, there's only two options really. So a true or a false. You could also have a boolean that is a yes or a no. So these are the things you find in your WSDL. You find the input, you find the output, and you find the data type, and lastly, you find the endpoint. So let's open up SoapUI again, and I'm going to use one of the examples given to us in SoapUI. So to get there, you click on Help, click on Getting Started, right there. Oh, actually I have it open. So this is what you do. Once you get there, there are two WSDLs given to us here. We can use any of them. We can use the currency converter. So I can pick this. Oh, actually, I have a better idea. I'm going to use another WSDL. So in the class today, I gave you guys a class exercise for the calculator. So let's use that because I know that works. I think that's a better. Okay. So this was the class exercise we did today. And we're going to go to this website and we're going to get the WSDL that we're going to use. So I'm going to go there, pick up the WSDL. So the WSDL I'm looking for is this. As you can see, it says the WSDL, and this is a calculator. So this is a service, it's a calculator. And I can't imagine how many devices have a calculator on them. Believe it or not, all those devices, nobody creates a calculator software anymore. We just simply call a calculator service. So let me copy this, and I'm going to paste this WSDL into my SoapUI. So create a new SOAP project. I can call it a calculator, and I'll paste my WSDL in there. Now, when you paste in your WSDL, make sure there's no space. As you can see, when I copied it, there was a space here. So delete that space, and also make sure there's no space in front of it. No space there. It looks good. We'll press OK. All right. So let's open it up. So this is my calculator, and you can see right away that you have one, two, three, four web services in this calculator. Let's test the first one. So the first one is add. If I click on the request message, I have two question marks in here. Now, for a lot of you, you would not know what to put in there because you don't know. I mean, I don't know what X is. I don't know what Y means. So what we do here is we will have to read the WSDL documentation and check for the inputs for this add web service. And that will now tell me the type of data to put in here and in there. To generate your WSDL document, this is what we do. So you right click on this green little icon and you say generate documentation. So if I click on that generate documentation, it's asking me where do you want to save the WSDL document. You can save it anywhere you want to save it. I'm going to save mine on the desktop. I'm just going to press OK on my desktop and press OK. So once I press OK, it's open. So you can see right away it's telling you this calculator web service has, four, they call it operations. You can call it 4 different web services inside. And I'm looking for the first one. So I'll click on detail, and that will take me to the add. So right away, what you're looking for is your input. So I know the first input, the X, is a float. So what is a float? let's go back into our data type. A float is a double. So I know that the input should be some kind of decimal. That's what the web service is expecting from me. And it's telling me as well y is the same thing. So y is also a float. So I'm also expecting to use decimals for my y. Lastly, it's telling me the result that it will return. It will only return one result or one line called result, and that would also be a float. Now we know exactly what to do. So now let's go back into our SoapUI, and I'm going to click on my X. I'll press, maybe give it a float, 10.1, and maybe on my Y, I can give it 15.2. Run it. So to run, you click on the green icon, and I get back my result. So I'm only expecting one data type to be coming back, or sorry, one result, which is only result, and that looks good. So I see it's also a float. So that's how you test a web service. Let's try the second web service, or the second operator, divide. Divide, the same thing. I go into my request message. I don't know what the numerator should be. I don't know what the denominator to be. So I'll go into my WSDL documentation. If I can find it. Oh, right here. Okay. And it seems like we are lucky. It's also the same thing. So it's telling me the numerator is a float, and the denominator is also a float. And lastly, it only returns one result. So the same thing, I will put in, let's say 10.3, and I can put in 5.7 maybe, or 5.0, and press run, and you can see right away that is my result. So this is how you create a request message. This is how you read the WSDL to understand what the request message should be, and also always make sure you have the right endpoint. Okay. So I'm going to remove all of this. The next topic I would like to show you. So I've showed you how to create a SOAP project. We've done this. I've showed you how to read your WSDL documentation. And in there, I showed you the different data types we have. I've showed you how to create your request message. Now I'm going to show you how to create test cases. So let's go back into SoapUI. If you notice in SoapUI, SoapUI gives me one request message by default. But a lot of times, to test this web service ad, I might have 10 tests I want to do. Maybe I want to do my positive test cases, my negative test cases, maybe add 0 plus 0, my boundary, right? Maybe I want to do 5-digit number, 4-digit number, whatever, you're going to have a lot of tests that you want to do on this web service. So I need more than one request. So in that case, what do? I will right click on add, and I'll tell it to give me a new request message. Now it's going to tell me to give it a name. I advise you guys to, give it a name that you can remember. QAs sometimes use their test case ID because they can refer back to their test case document to read about it, or you can just give it something that really makes sense. So it could be, if I'm using test case ID, I can use TC001. And sorry, my SoapUI has some drawing issues. So you can see right there, I now have 2 request messages. You can keep going. You can create as many as you want to create. So I can create my TC002. And if you go, sorry about this drawing, you can see now that I have 3 request messages. So now the idea is my first one might have my positive test. My second one might be a negative test. Maybe I'm trying to add minus 10, right, with maybe 0.001. Where my third test case could be maybe boundary. I'm trying to add 1000000. I'm trying to break it. I'm trying to see what the boundary is. 10, it could be whatever you have. So now I have 3 test cases, for this web service called Addition. And I can run them just to make sure we get in. So you can see that's the result for the third one. The second one, if you run that, they all seem to be working actually. So that's really good. This is a very good calculator. Let me call this. I'm going to rename this. Now, some of you might ask me, well, Ty, how do I rename, a web service or a request message? It's really simple. Right-click on the request message, and you select rename. So if I select rename, right away, I can change the name. So now, let's go back to SoapUI. Okay. So right-click, and I'm going to press rename, and I can call this guy TC003. When I call it TC003, if you notice, SoapUI tried to rearrange it for me properly, and this is how you can create many test cases for a web service. So I've done this. Now, if you notice what's going on in here, I'm running every single test case manually. I come in here, I run the script manually. I come in here, I run the script manually, do my check. Then I come here as well, I do it manually, I do my check. This will take you forever to do. And let me show you what a real project looks like. On a real project, you have, this is one of the things I'm working on. And don't get nervous. You can see that I have, oh no, this is one of the easy ones. Let's see. Yes. I have one web service that has over 21 operations or web services. So this can take you forever. You don't want to get stuck doing this manually. So that's why we have to create what is called a test suite. So a test suite is a collection of test cases. It allows you to run all your tests by pushing just one single button, and all your tests get run for you. So how do we do that? How do we create a test suite? It's really easy. You right click on your first test case and you say add to a test case. Or you right click on your first request message and you say add to a test case. So I click on add to a test case because now I have no test suite. So that's why SoapUI is saying you're missing a test suite in your project, give it a name and let me create a test suite for you. So that's fine. I'll call it test suite 1 and I'll press OK. Now it's asking me to name this request message. It's saying, okay, I see you trying to make it into a test case. Give it a name. I can call it test case 1. A lot of times we'll now be more specific. So I can say maybe test case 1, adding negative numbers, right? Something like that. Press OK. Just always press OK here. It's the default screen. Press OK. And you can see now that I have my test suite created, which is here. Okay, let me make it clearer. So if you see here, I have my test suite created, and I have a test case inside of my test suite. Now you might be asking me, what is all this noise stuff here? So don't worry about load testing, we haven't done that. Don't worry about security testing, we haven't done security as well. But this is what you're looking for. This here is the same as here. If you notice, at TC001 is the same as there. Now, if I want to run my test suite, I can just click on this test suite, and I only have one test case inside, but I can run that, and it runs the test case. Let's do another one. Let me convert this second request message into a test case. So I'll right click on it, and I'll say add to a test case. Now he's asking me, oh Ty, you already have a test suite 1. And he's saying for test suite 1, test case 1, do you want to add this also to test case 1? I'm going to say no, I want to add it to the same test suite, but create a new test case for it. So I'll select the second option. My SoapUI is really, because I'm recording, so I keep trying to, okay, there we go. is not drawing properly on my screen because I'm recording this right now. So let's press OK. So I selected create a new test case in the same test suite. So you press OK, and it's asking me for a name of the test case. So I'm going to say test case 2, and I can say this is my positive, or I can just say adding simple numbers. And you press OK. I'll press OK from here as well. And now if you notice, you can minimize all this stuff to make it easy for you to see what's going on. I now have a test suite that has 2 test cases. If I double click on my test suite, you can see that I have 2 test cases inside. Press play, and right away my 2 test cases ran. Now a green is a pass, a red is a fail. But do I really know what's going on in here? I mean, it's saying it's passing, but I don't know. Like, I don't know what's coming back. I mean, I checked it here and I was happy with it, but who knows what is passing and what is failing? So the next thing I want to show you is how to manually create your expected results. Expected results, we call them checkpoints or a session. So this is where I want to create my expected result. So now, once I create my expected result, I would always tell SoapUI that whenever you run this test case, always check to make sure that this thing is coming back. If that thing is coming back, then pass the test case. If that thing does not come back, then fail the test case. So how do we do that? Now, by the way, guys, you cannot create an accession from your request messages. You can only create an accession when you have a test suite and a test case set up. So I'll open up my message. This is my first one. That's my first test case. And on the bottom here, you can see that I have one accession by default. So SoapUI will create one for you by default. And SoapUI, all it's checking for is to make sure that the web service is returning back a response. If it returns back a response, SoapUI passes the test. So the green you were seeing before is not really that this web service is working because it's only a computer. It can't do that test for you. It's only passing it because the web service is returning something back. So let's create another accession. So I'll click on the accession and I'll click on the plus sign. For the folks that have the newer version of this software of SoapUI, you have a green plus sign somewhere here. It's the same thing. I'm using an older version, so I'll click on the plus sign. And there are different types of accessions you can add. Let's keep it simple for now. So I can say contains. If you want to do the opposite of contains, then you say not contains. But let's try contains. But before I do that, what do I want to check for anyways? I want to check for whenever you run these 2 things, always make sure that minus 99999 is returned. So I'll copy the entire XML line, copy that, and in my new accession now, contains, press add, I can now say, whenever you run this test case, always make sure that this line comes back. When you press OK, you can see now that I have 2 checkpoints in there. This one was done by SoapUI, and this is mine. Okay. So let's do that again. Let me do that for the next test case. So I can close this guy. For my next test case, I will click on the test case, click on accessions, click on add a new one, contains. Now I want to check that this thing is always returned, so I can copy that, and I'll replace this number here with with this expected result. And press OK. Alright, so now we can close this. So when I run this test suite again, I'm confident now that this test case, my test cases are really working because I know that the expected result is coming back. Now, let me try something. If I change my inputs here, say I make it 11, you know that this should fail because the expected result will be different. If I change, so let's try it. So I change my test case to 11, my input, I close it. If I run my test, the first one should fail. So a lot of times we QAs, when we're doing our testing, you might have 30 of this. We don't really care about the passes because we know that that passed okay, that's fine. But it's the failed ones that you are more interested in. So for the failed ones, this is what we do. You click on it and you want to read the message. Why is it failing? So it's telling me it's failing because see, it said test case failed. And it stopped it after some time because it's failing. And this is the reason why you failed. It said because it's missing blah, 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 blah in the response message. So when you see this as a QA, then you do investigation to see why is my response not coming back with minus 999. And that could be maybe you have, if you double click on that, that could be because you change the input or the response is not correct. So this is how we create test cases and test suites and checkpoints in SoapUI. So let's go back into your class notes. So we've talked about this. And lastly, we spoke about this as well. So everyone now should be somewhat, I won't call you a guru yet, but everyone should be a somewhat, comfortable testing a web service. If I give you a WSDL today, you join a company, they give you a WSDL, you should be confident to take that WSDL, go read the WSDL documentation, put that WSDL into SoapUI, and run your test in SoapUI. A lot of people always struggle with what should be the input. That seems to be the problem. What should I put in here? What should I put in the question mark? What should I put in the question mark? Sometimes, if you have a large, let me show you one of my real. This is what I do on the job. Look at this request message here. Oh no, this one is already complete. Let's pick a new one. Oh, it's already complete. I'm going to create a new request. So I'm going to say new request, that's fine. Now look at this. This is a web service on operation that has quite a lot of question mark, and sometimes, yes, I know the data type is the date, but I'm still struggling to know, what kind of valid date is it looking for. If you're working in a company where you have quite a large input for the web service, just ask the company for a sample request message. So you say, hi guys, can you just give me a sample request message for the for this web service? Then once you get that, then you can use that to customize and create your request. So that's the end of SoapUI. In the next class, we're going to talk about REST web service testing. Thank you.